Biggest two things that night was it was extremely cold out, and this gentleman didn't even have a pair of socks on. And you could see the blisters from like 10, 15 feet away.
How bad were they?
Probably about the size of my palm. And just, I don't know how he wasn't in pain, but he wasn't bothering anybody, just walking, he had his own agenda, and just he was a gentleman when I had spoken to him. And I knew I'd had to help him.
Have you ever done this before?
I mean, as a police officer, you do things like this all the time. And I think that's what a lot of people haven't really noticed, but are starting to notice, which is great. But nothing that's ever gotten this much attention.
As a police officer in New York, how are you trained to deal with the homeless population? How are you trained to deal with that problem? You guys are on the street, you see it all the time.
Well, it depends on where you are. Obviously, there may be homeless issues in certain areas, but we have a lot of procedures. Unfortunately, if they don't want to be helped, there's nothing we can do unless we feel that it's severe to their health. And then we have to step in. We can call the homeless outreach program and get them off the streets and get them to a safer area.
Let me jump in for just a second, because we actually have someone special on the phone, who's Jennifer Foster, who's the woman who actually took the photograph. Jennifer, are you with us? Good morning.
I am. Good morning.
So you're the one. You were just a tourist. You're from Arizona. You were in the city in Times Square. Why'd you pull out your camera and do this?
Okay, great.
Well, it was actually on my cell phone, and I only had it with me because I was walking toward this gentleman that Officer DePrimo was helping, and I didn't realize that he was going to also assist him, and I was about to hand him some money because he had been asking for change.
And you did this not just because you were, you wanted to take this photograph, but you have a backstory of a father in law enforcement who did something similar.
I did. I remember being, 8 or 10 years old and watching my dad go into a donut shop, walk back out, and bend down in exactly the same way that Mr. DePrimo did, and hand this gentleman breakfast, shook his hand, and walked away. And in the same way, as Larry wanted nothing of it, no attention, no anything. And I know that these things do happen all over the country with law enforcement all of the time, but I still recognized it as remarkable and thought, if nothing else, I needed Officer DePrimo's supervisor to know that he had done this thing.
What was the man's reaction when you gave him the boots?
He was extremely thankful. He had a smile from ear to ear, which is something, I'll never forget. And he said, thank you, officer. He's like, God bless you and be safe out there. And he just kept on going on his way. I'd asked him for, if he wanted to get a cup of coffee and food, but he, he didn't want to, and he just kept on going. So.
Did you know what's become of him? Does anyone know where he is?
I've a few people have tried to find him, and I hope we do. I'd like to speak to him, but unfortunately, I haven't seen him since. So I'd like to see him.